All right, today we are on chapter 13. Please find that. It's titled Part 3, My Shore Adventure, and How I Began My Shore Adventure is the title name. Hey, don't touch anything. You were supposed to have had your books and your maps when the bell rang, like I asked. 91.
Which page are you on? 55.
I'm on page 55.
Okay.
It says, the appearance of the island when I came on deck next morning was altogether changed. Why would the appearance of the island be different?
It's like on islands, and because like on islands, like in the morning, like the mist from the sea, it rises and it's like foggy.
Okay, so it was foggy when we saw it before, right? What about now? Here. Why does it look different today than it did before? Yeah.
Maybe because they're on a different part of near a different part of it.
Okay, we're a little bit closer because we saw it in the distance last night. It's only been about 5 hours since the last chapter ended. But also, what did it just say? The next morning. So it's brighter. Don't things look more cool or even more creepy and interesting near dusk or nighttime?
Yes.
And during the day, they just look kind of plain. Right? And so at night, we saw this mysterious island with fog over the top. You could see, it's like, whoa. Then you wake up this morning and you're like, that doesn't look so special. Maybe that's what people feel like when they do those online relationships and then they meet the person. I don't know, and it's like, oh, you're not anything what I thought you might
It's
look
like that one commercial. She's like, you can't put anything on the internet. It's not true. And then that guy comes up and he's like a nerd, or like he's like a loser, and he comes up and he's like, I'm French model. He's like, bonjour, just like singing. That's funny.
All right. Although the breeze had now utterly failed, stay there. Although the breeze had now utterly failed, we had made a great deal of way during the night, and we're now lying becalmed about half a mile to the southeast of the low eastern coast. So, we have our map so we can have a better idea of what we're doing. Oh, I messed up. Forgot to save it. I don't want to show it to you. Oh, I forgot to bring up the old one. And then Nebraska 4. And then open recent.
It looks more like Oklahoma.
Okay, here is our island. We are now coming around the southeast side of Skeleton Island, all right? And we're trying to get to this anchorage area. This is where there's an anchor on that tells us where you need to put the boat so it's safe. So go ahead and put an anchor in between Skeleton Island and you already got one there, and the Treasure Island. We're going to put an anchor there so that we know where we're supposed to stop our boat. Basically, that's our parking spot. But
Where at again?
the lower southeast corner between the Skeleton Island and the Treasure Island.
Oh.
Okay? Yeah?
I haven't even built my map yet.
Were you gone yesterday?
Yeah, for testing.
Okay. Well, you need to draw a basic map right now, and then draw that. Okay? Did you pick up a sheet over there? Yeah, but what about the assignment sheet? Does anybody have an assignment sheet you can let him look at, so he can have an idea of what it looks like on the back? Okay. Notice the words here. This is more descriptive. The island, I mean, this is Treasure Island, the name of the book. So we need to have a good description of it. He doesn't just have dialogue the whole time. So I notice people today are kind of like, well, it's not as exciting right now because he's just describing the island. But that's a big deal. The island itself is a character. And what kind of emotion does it evoke? It's kind of interesting. It says, gray-colored woods covered a large part of the surface. This even tint was indeed broken up by streaks of yellow sandbreak in the lower lands, and by tall trees of the pine family outtopping the others, some singly, some in clumps. But the general coloring was uniform and sad. Uniform means the same. It's all just same gray color, and it's a sad feeling you get from it. The hills ran up clear above the vegetation in spires of naked rock. Points of rocks just jutting up out of nowhere. Yeah.
Is that why they call them uniforms?
Uniforms is everybody looks the same. To do things uniform means that everybody's equal.
I don't like that word.
You want to be different like everybody else. Wait a minute.
No.
I gotcha. Okay.
No.
All were strangely shaped, and the spyglass, which was by 300 or 400 feet the tallest on the island, was likewise the strangest in configuration, running up sheer almost every side, and then suddenly cut off at the top, like a pedestal to put on a statue. We've got, in the middle, we've got Spyglass Mountain. That looks like it's really sheer or straight up almost, but at the top is cut off. And that's where the guy would stand with his telescope all around, while down here, the pirates would clean their ship, right? Or get all the dead guys off, or get all the treasure out, and then take it to the island. The Hispaniola was rolling scuppers under the ocean swell. The booms were tearing at the blocks. The rudder was banging to and fro, and the whole ship creaking and growing and jumping like a manufactory. The whole boat, now that it's stopped, is doing this. And everything's banging around. I had to cling tight to the backstay, and the world turned giddily before my eyes. You ever been on one of those rides where they go, it's like everything's kind of spinning, and you're like, whoa. For though I was good enough sailor when there was a way on, when we're moving, I was fine. This standing still and being rolled about like a bottle was a thing I never learned to stand without a qualm or so. Above all, in the morning on an empty stomach, a qualm, a little, like, oh man, I'm getting seasick. Perhaps it was this. Perhaps it was the look of the island, which we said is sad and dark and black, with its gray, melancholy woods. What's melancholy mean? Depressed, sad, and wild stone spires, and the surf that we could both see and hear foaming and thundering on the steep beach. At least, although the sun shone bright and hot, and the shorebirds were fishing and crying all around us, "Rah, rah," and you would have thought anyone would have been glad to get to land after being so long at sea, but my heart sank, the saying is, into my boots. And from that first look onward, I hated the very thought of Treasure Island. I hated the very thought. Why would he be hating Treasure Island right now? He's been daydreaming about it for the last few months.
Thought it'd be cooler.
Thought it'd be cool. You ever been disappointed by what you thought you were going to get to do? Get somewhere and you're like, oh, this is kind of lame. What else is going on that's lame?
Bad guys are like planning a mutiny.
Yeah. Is that right, Kim? The bad guys are planning a mutiny. That might dampen things a bit, right? We had a dreary morning's work before us, for there was no sign of any wind, and the boats had to be got out and manned. And the ship worked 3 or 4 miles round the corner of the island and up the narrow passage to the haven behind Skeleton Island. I volunteered for one of the boats where I had, of course, no business. The heat was sweltering, and the men grumbled fiercely over their work. Anderson was in command of my boat, and instead of keeping the crew in order, he grumbled as loud as the worst. Well, he said with an oath, it's not forever. 2 things. First of all, what boats are they in? I thought this was one big schooner.
The little
The jolly boats, right. There's no wind, so they had to get out and tow by rowing. You have to tow the boat to where it needs to anchor. Long. And it's brutal, and it's hot, and everybody's tired. You ever had to clean your room?
Yeah.
When are you the best at cleaning your room? The first 10 minutes or the last 10 minutes?
Last.
For me, the last 10 minutes are the worst. I'm like, I don't even want to do this anymore. Oh, I forgot. At first you're like, okay, I tidy up, and then you're like, oh, wow, there's something cool. Oh, hey, the last 10, imagine this long trip, and now it's like, oh, now we gotta get out and row this thing in. So what I want you to do is draw some jolly boats. How many did they say there were?
40.
3.
Oh, also yes. Sorry. I kind of like drew my ship already.
Okay.
Like,
That's okay. You have your ship there, that's fine, but you need to have 3 jolly boats around. 3 jolly boats are basically tugboating this big schooner in so it can drop its anchor.
What? They're pulling it?
They're pulling it.
No big deal.
It's not that bad, but they have to pull the boat by rowing. 3 of those boats pulling, there's all the guys are out there, row, 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 because there's no wind to push the boat anymore. Question?
basically, when I'm cleaning my room, it's like 90% actually cleaning and 10%, well, 10% is actually cleaning it, and then 10% is like just playing with stuff.
Yeah, you just putz around, right? It's like, yeah. Don't worry, you're not alone. We all do
I
it.
try to make it entertaining. I listen to music when I'm done my room.
Yeah.
I thought this was a very bad sign. Oh, he said it's not forever. What does that mean? What does that mean, it's not forever? What? Yeah, what are they going to be doing instead?
Killing.
Killing and finding a treasure, right? They're going to find some treasure and then take everybody out. I thought this was a very bad sign, for up to that day the men had gone briskly and willingly about their business, but the very sight of land had relaxed the cords of discipline. All the way in, Long John stood by the steersman and conned the ship. He knew the passage like the palm of his hand, and though the man in the chains got everywhere more water than was down in the chart, John never hesitated at once. That's a strong scow at the ebb, and there's the passage, but dug out in a manner of speaking with his spade. It's like, hey guys, row over here. This will be easier if you go over this way. We brought up just where the anchor was in the chart, about 1/3 of a mile from either shore, the mainland on one side and the skeleton island on the other. The bottom was clean sand. The plunge of our anchor sent up a cloud of birds wheeling and crying over the woods. But in less than a minute they were down again, and all was once more silent. So, just to get a look at the island from our view, there's the ocean. We've got 3 boats tugging our boat. And here's Treasure Island, right? And here's Spyglass sticking out at the top, maybe another hill, and then here's Skeleton Island, right? And then there's trees all up across. They're trying to park it right here. It's about 1/3, there's about less than half a mile this way and less than half a mile that way. And they're going to put the boat in the middle. Okay? That's what they're trying to do. What?
Why?
Because the current does this, and if you're a little bit away from the from here, you can actually get the boats, the jolly boats can easily use the current to get in to here. But getting back out, you can get out here and get out of the current, and then come back in. All right. So they just do it in circles.
Around the island with the current.
Well, they could just take it all the way around. That might take a while, but this way they can get out, and they're using the current to park the boat. All right. We brought, the place was entirely landlocked, buried in woods, the trees coming right down to high water mark, the shores mostly flat, and the hilltops standing round at a distance, in a sort of amphitheater. One here, one there. 2 little rivers, or rather 2 swamps, emptied into this pond, as you might call it, and the foliage round that part of the shore had a kind of poisonous brightness, kind of in this big amphitheater of trees, and down in the cove, there's a water lagoon that they're parking the boat in. From the ship, we could see nothing of this house or stockade. Oh, a new thing to put on the map. It's on the original map. So, but now that he mentions it, what I want you to do is draw a square somewhere in the south central. Draw a square and put a circle in the middle. Okay? Draw a square and put a circle in the middle.
Like in the center of the map?
Somewhere in south central. South central.
Are we not supposed to put something in there?
Yeah, you're supposed to, but now you have to put a stockade. Now a stockade, as you draw that, is just a room about this big, it's a cabin, about this big, and we'll talk about it more later, but there's sand around it, 30 feet around, and then a big 8-foot fence surrounding the stockade, right? That's what a stockade is. And that's somewhere, they can't see it. They're only maybe a half a mile away or a mile away, but they can't see it because the trees are so thick. You're supposed, yeah, put it on your key, stockade. So over here you add square with a dot and say stockade. For they were quite buried among the trees. And if it had not been for the chart on the companion, we might have been the first that had ever anchored there since the island rose out of the seas. It's like, it doesn't look like anybody's ever been here before. There was not a breath of air moving, nor a sound but that of the surf booming half a mile away along the beaches and against the rocks outside. A peculiar stagnant smell hung over the anchorage, a smell of sodden leaves and rotten tree trunks. I observed the doctor sniffing and sniffing like someone tasting a bad egg. You ever smelled it? You're like, what is that? Well, the doctor smells it and is like, I don't know about treasure, but I'll stake my wig there's fever here. He can smell some sort of bacterial in the air. And if you breathe it too much, you'll get yellow fever. If the conduct of the men had been alarming in the boat, it became truly threatening when they had come aboard. They lay about the deck growling together in talk. The slightest order was received with a black look, and grudgingly and carelessly obeyed. Even the honest hands must have caught the infection, for there was not a man aboard to mend another. It's like, shut up, I don't want to help. You do it. Mutiny, it was plain, hung over us like a thundercloud. It was not only we of the cabin party who perceived the danger. Long John was hard at work, going from group to group, spending himself in good advice. And for example, no man could have shown it better. He fairly outstripped himself in willingness and civility. He was all smiles to everyone. If an order were given, John would be on his crutch in an instant with the cheeriest "Oi, sat" in the world. And when there was nothing else to do, he kept up one song after another as if to conceal the discontent of the rest. Even Long John could tell everybody's frustrated, everybody's annoyed and agitated. I got to keep people happy or else this is going to happen way too soon. Of all the gloomy features of that gloomy afternoon, this obvious anxiety on the part of Long John appeared the worst. We held a council in the cabin. "Sir," said the captain, if I risk another order, the whole ship will come about our ears by the run. You see, sir, it is. I get a rough answer, do I not? Well, if I speak back, pikes will be going in 2 shakes. If I don't, Silver will see there's something under that, and the game's up. I've only had one man to rely on. So he says, if I keep telling them to work, they get mad. If I stop telling them to work, Long John will know I know something. He'll know that I know that they know that we know. Oh. So we have to depend on one guy. "Who is that?" says Squire. "Silver, sir," returned the captain. "He's anxious as you and I to smother things up. This is a tiff. He'd soon talk him out of it if he had the chance. What I propose to do is give him the chance. Let's allow the men an afternoon ashore. Hey, let's take a break. Let's say, hey guys, go exploring. Go have a good afternoon. It'll be fun. Great job today. Good work." If they all go, we'll fight the ship. If none of them go, well, then we hold the cabin and God defend the right. If some go, you mark my words, so we bring them aboard again as mild as lambs. If he takes most of the guys, he'll get them all happy again. If he doesn't leave, well, then we fight. If everybody leaves, we're leaving. Let's go home. We don't need this treasure. We need to save our lives. So let's see what happens. It was so decided. Loaded pistols were served out to all the sure men. Hunter, Joyce, and Redruth were taken into our confidence and received the news with less surprise and better spirit than we looked for. And then Captain went on deck and addressed the crew. The last 3 guys were like, yeah, we knew something was up. We're happy to be a part on the good guys. My lads, we've had a hot day and are all tired and out of sorts. A turn ashore will hurt nobody. The boats are still in the water and you can take the gigs. And as many as please you can go ashore for the afternoon. I'll fire a gun half an hour before sundown. Says, hey, there's 3 boats. Hey, take however many you want, go ashore. We'll just wait for you. All right? I'll fire a gun half hour before the sun comes down. I believe the silly fellows must have thought they would break their shins over the treasure as soon as they were landed, but they all came out of their sulks in a moment, and gave a yeah cheer. It started the echo in a faraway hill and set the birds once more flying and squalling round the anchorage. The captain was too bright to be in the way. He whipped out of sight in a moment, leaving Silver to arrange the party, and I fancy it was as well as he did so. He's like, hey, you guys have a good trip? You guys have fun on the island? And he shuts the door and disappears. Why? Had he been on deck, he could no longer so much have pretended not to understand the situation. It was clear. It was plain as day. Silver was now the captain. And a mighty rebellious crew he had of it. The honest hands, and I was soon to see proved that there was such on board, must have been very stupid fellows. Or rather, I suppose the truth was this, that all hands were disaffected by the example of the ringleaders. It's like, you know what, I'm tired of this cruise too. Only some more, some less. And a few, being good fellows in the main, could neither be led nor driven any further. It is one thing to be idle and skulk, and quite another to take a ship and murder a number of innocent men. Some of these guys are like, let's just go on shore and take a break, we'll be fine. Let's just get away. Not realizing that their time was up. At last, however, the party was made. 6 fellows were to stay on board, and the remaining 13, including Silver, began to embark. So, how many guys are there? 19. We're going to put an anchor next to 6 so that we can remember who's on the boat. There's one hint here I'm going to tell you. Israel Hand is on the boat. He's going to stay behind. And then we're going to say pirates 5 through 9. So do a T with a smile. T, lowercase t with a smile.